A running back in Detroit is getting healthier. One in Dallas is not. My name is Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup for Thursday, October 27th, 2022.
It's time for the FantasyPoints.com Daily Lineup. Staying on top of the latest news and updates around the NFL. Rise and shine, folks. We're taking the field. Here's your host, FantasyPoints.com's Joe Dolan.
Big ups to the recycling truck that's outside right now, just as I'm recording this. I don't know if you guys can hear that. This microphone does a pretty good job of noise cancellation. Starting at quarterback for the Patriots in Week 8 will be Mac Jones. Jones is slated to take the field on Sunday against the Jets. This is per my guy Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald. Though Coach Bill Belichick was his typical wry self when discussing the situation, the Patriots needed to avoid any sort of quarterback controversy after last week's shenanigans. Belichick said the Patriots will not be doing the platoon situation anymore, and they shouldn't. Bailey Zappi deserves credit for the work he did as a starter, but the Patriots absolutely must go back to the more physically gifted Jones and see what he can do at 100%. He will be a fantasy quarterback 2 against the Jets on Sunday. In our first running back spot today, we have the Lions' DeAndre Swift. Swift was a full participant in practice Wednesday as he recovers from ankle and shoulder injuries. The Lions held out Swift in their final 2 games before their Week 6 bye in hopes of getting him healthy for Week 7 against the Cowboys last week, but his shoulder injury proved to be too difficult to play through, and he was inactive. He was limited in practice all of last week, so this is a clear upgrade. Barring setback, he should return against the Dolphins this weekend. That's great news, because the Dolphins allow the most schedule-adjusted fantasy points per game to opposing running backs this year and are especially vulnerable to running backs in the passing game. Swift will be a top 12 running back option this week. Zeke Elliott is in our running back 2 spot, but will he be in the Cowboys lineup this weekend? Elliott, who didn't practice on Wednesday, is tending to a grade 2 MCL sprain in his right knee and a thigh bruise that he sustained during this past Sunday's win against the Lions. This is per Clarence E. Hill Jr. of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Elliott was lucky the injury wasn't worse. If his leg was planted when he sustained the hit, we would be looking at a Willis McGahee situation. He toughed it out and even scored both of his touchdowns after the injury last week, but it's clearly a painful situation. Given how poorly he played with a sprained PCL last year, the Cowboys would be wise to shut Zeke down and let Tony Pollard take over for a couple of weeks. Now, we'll see if that's the case, but Zeke must be downgraded and Pollard upgraded anyway. Pollard played a season-high snap share, by the way, so clearly Zeke's knee was a factor in that. Now, if Zeke doesn't play, Pollard is a legitimate top 12 option against the Bears this coming weekend. And small sample alert, Pollard has played exactly 1 game in his career without Zeke. He carried the ball 12 times for 69 yards and 2 touchdowns, adding 6 catches for 63 yards. That's 31.2 PPR fantasy points. The Giants wide receiver 1 is our wide receiver 1 today. The rookie, Wan'Dale Robinson, wasn't listed on the Giants injury report on Wednesday, Ralph Vacchiano of Fox Sports reports, so it looks like his recovery from his knee injury is virtually complete. Robinson once again led the Giants wide receivers in Week 7 with 6 catches for 50 yards on 8 targets while playing 70% of the snaps in their victory over the Jaguars. Now, Robinson took a shot to the family jewels fairly early in the game in Week 7, or else he probably would have caught 2 or 3 more balls. The Giants are likely to have one of the weaker passing attacks moving forward, which caps some of Wan'Dale's upside, but he'll have the chance to develop into a solid weekly starter at wide receiver 3 in PPR formats. He already looks like the undisputed number 1 target for Daniel Jones, who's playing pretty well overall. In our second wide receiver spot, we don't know if we'll have Allen Lazard. Lazard didn't practice Wednesday with a shoulder injury, with Coach Matt LaFleur saying he's unsure if the wideout will miss any games, per Rob Demovsky of ESPN.com. Lazard left last week's game with the injury and was spotted in a sling on Monday. As discussed on yesterday's program, this comes on the heels of yet another Aaron Rodgers appearance on the Pat McAfee show, on which Rodgers said, quote, Guys who are making too many mistakes shouldn't be playing. Got to start cutting some reps. Maybe guys who aren't playing, maybe give them a chance. Now, that was a Romeo Doubs quote, I think, given Doubs didn't haul in any of his 4 targets in the Packers' embarrassing loss to Taylor Heineke and the Commanders last week. But Rodgers should probably be looking into the mirror himself here. Nonetheless, the Packers do need wide receiver help and are apparently looking to the trade market. Any Lazard absence would exacerbate that need. They can make a deal at any moment. And in our flex spot, we have multiple situations to watch on Thursday Night Football for the Baltimore Ravens. All 3 of Baltimore's top offensive weapons, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, and Gus Edwards, are questionable for Thursday night's game against the Buccaneers. Andrews played his typical snap share in Week 7 against the Browns at 88%, but was catchless on 2 targets. Now, that would be random variance, given Lamar Jackson was 9 of 16 passing, so nobody really produced in a run-heavy game script. But it is notable that Andrews missed practices last week with his knee soreness as well. Now, the same plan seems to be in effect this week, though the short turnaround to Thursday's game is clearly complicating matters in terms of his availability. It looks like a true game-time decision, and Andrews' managers should have a backup plan in place, including perhaps Isaiah Likely. Bateman did not practice on Tuesday, but was given a full session on Wednesday, and it's near certain that Tuesday was a rest day for his problematic foot. So my read is that Bateman will play on Thursday night. Bateman led the Ravens in receiving in Week 7's win over the Browns, but it was with just 42 receiving yards on 4 receptions. Bateman also played just 56% of the snaps in his return from his foot injury, second most among Ravens wide receivers behind Devin Duvernay. Now, Bateman has yet to hit even a 70% snap share this season, as the Ravens use a lot of multiple tight end sets and also utilize a fullback, but he's at least usable for fantasy if you need him. He's a potential wide receiver 2 this week if Andrews can't play. As for Edwards, he was a limited participant in practice on Wednesday and is listed as questionable as well, as he continues his recovery from his ACL injury. Now, the Ravens are likely managing Edwards' reps after his rock-solid 2022 debut last week, in which he scored 2 touchdowns, though the turnaround to a Thursday night game after 14 months off from action isn't exactly the best scenario for him, which might explain this questionable tag. Kenyon Drake and Justice Hill are both viable fill-ins if Edwards doesn't go. Thanks for joining me for another edition of the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup. I hope everybody enjoys the Thursday night football game tonight. I'll be with you tomorrow to wrap up week number 8, but if you want direct access to me, asking me questions, come to our subscriber Discord at fantasypoints.com. You got to go to fantasypoints.com and subscribe to the website. It's already 25% off, but if you use code LINEUP22, you get an extra 10% off. If you like betting, get our premium package. Like DFS, get our premium package. But if you just want to manage your team, make it as strong as possible in redraft, our standard package will do just fine. We also cover college football, by the way. So that's been a pet project for our guy, Wes Huber, and it has been very successful. I'm Joe. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Enjoy the Thursday night game tonight. Hopefully, all of your questionable players play. I'll catch you tomorrow.